Welcome to Human Wreckage, the podcast where we explore the darkest moments of human behavior, what triggers them, who pays the cost, and how the wreckage ripples outward. I'm your host, Thomas, and in this episode we take a deep dive into a case of unimaginable violence, the January 22nd, 23 attack by 19-year-old Bo Meistas and his 16-year-old sister Monique Meistas on two young sisters staying in an RV trailer park outside a casino in Mesquite, Nevada. We will walk through the background of the attackers, the victims, the night of the crime, the investigation, the legal process, and finally what this case forces us to confront as a society. What happens when childhood collapses under neglect, drugs, vengeance, and young people cross a line from desperation into atrocity? Trigger warning. This case involves the stabbing of children, extreme violence, and long-term trauma. If this is difficult to hear, please consider whether you should listen. To understand what happened, we need to understand the people, the place, the tensions behind the scenes. The incident occurred at the RV park owned by the Casablanca Resort and Casino in Mesquite, Nevada, a desert casino town near the Utah border. The trailer in question was parked on the resort's RV lot. The early morning hours of January 22nd, 23 would become a scene of devastation. A 3-year-old girl, Christiana Cowan, and her 10-year-old half-sister, Brittany Bergeron, were inside the trailer. The mother, Tamara Bergeron, and her boyfriend were inside the casino, according to police accounts. At the time, Brittany had already experienced significant trauma. Years of custody struggles, allegations of molestation, difficulties with her parents. After the attack, Christiana died of her wounds. Brittany survived, but was left paralyzed from the waist down. The attackers: Bo Meistas, 19 years old at the time of the crime. Monique Meistas, 16 years old at the time. They traveled from Utah, the Salt Lake area, to Mesquite and committed the attack. The motive, as alleged by police: revenge for a bad drug deal in which the mother's boyfriend was accused of selling salt instead of methamphetamine. The Maestas siblings believed they were cheated and decided to retaliate. The case raised immediate questions about juvenile justice, Monique's age, adult prosecution, and the death penalty for Bo. Monique and Bo grew up in a family marked by dysfunction. Their father, Harry Maestas, had prior convictions for murder and manslaughter in Utah. Brittany's upbringing also was unstable. A troubled custody history, drug issues in the home, prior CPS involvement. This wasn't a clean-cut, good kids versus bad kids story. The intersecting variables, poverty, substance misuse, parental absence, trauma, were all present. But what would happen on January 22nd, 2003 went far beyond background. It was calculated, brutal, and life-altering. Let's walk the timeline, as pieced together from police statements, court records, media reports. It will be difficult to hear. Brace yourself. Early morning, January 22nd, 23 around 2 a.m. The two siblings, Bo and Monique Meistas, arrived at the RV park near the Casablanca Resort in Mesquite, Nevada. The two little girls were alone in the trailer while their mother and her boyfriend were in the casino. Police noted the girls were unsupervised at that hour. According to authorities, the siblings forced their way into the trailer and attacked the girls with a large knife. Christiana, the 3-year-old, suffered multiple stab wounds, including to the head and neck. Brittany suffered at least 20 stab wounds, and 2 wounds severed her spinal cord, leaving her permanently paralyzed. In initial statements, Bo told investigators the girls began screaming. He lost control, then stabbed wildly. After the attack, the siblings fled back into Utah. They were pulled over by the Utah Highway Patrol and surrendered. Investigators later found their bloody clothing, knives, and other evidence linking them to the scene. In the aftermath, the mother of the girls, Tamara Bergeron, made a public statement. "The attack on my little girls is nothing short of violent, premeditated murder and attempted murder." One detail stands out. The victims were children, truly vulnerable, in a trailer in the early morning hours. The attackers were older young adult teens, and their claim of motive drug deal revenge makes what unfolded horrifying for how disconnected it was from the victim's world. To put it into perspective, the younger child, 3-year-old Christiana, struck down with multiple stab wounds to head and back, shockingly violent. The 10-year-old Brittany, fighting for her life, defending her sister, surviving despite the spinal cord injury. All because 2 young people felt ripped off. That line of cause to effect is small, but the destruction was immense. Once the crime scene was secured and the victims located, law enforcement moved quickly. On January 24, 2003, it was reported that authorities in Utah sought to extradite both Bo and Monique Meistas to Nevada. The siblings were charged in Clark County, Nevada with murder, attempted murder, burglary, while in the possession of a deadly weapon, conspiracy to commit robbery, and other related offenses. Monique, being 16, raised questions of whether she would be tried as an adult. A justice of the peace ruled she should be tried as an adult. In May 2003, both entered not guilty pleas initially. For Bo Meistas, he later pleaded guilty May 2005 to first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon, attempted murder with a deadly weapon, and burglary. Monique ultimately pleaded guilty to the murder and attempted murder charges as part of plea negotiations in order to avoid the death penalty. Because of her under 18 age, she was ineligible for death. Bo Meistas was sentenced to death by a Nevada jury. The Nevada Supreme Court affirmed the death sentence in 2012. Monique Meistas was sentenced to a term of years. Reports indicate 47 years to life. The case brought up significant debate about juvenile offenders committing very serious violent crimes in the intersection of juvenile justice and adult court. Meanwhile, legal action was also taken by the victim's family. The Casablanca resort offered $5.5 million to settle a lawsuit filed on behalf of Brittany, the paralyzed girl. Child neglect endangerment charges were brought against the girl's mother and her boyfriend for leaving the children alone at the trailer while they were in the casino. What this case demonstrates is how many layers of legal accountability can arise from the initial violent crime itself, to neglect or abuse of children, to civil liability of property owners or institutions. But at the core remains 2 little girls, 1 dead, 1 crippled. 2 teens, now criminals, serving life or death sentences. Let's shift to the human side. The survivors, the families, the long-term consequences. For Christiana Cowan, the 3-year-old, her life ended that night. The impact on her parents and the wider family is immeasurable. For Brittany Bergeron, surviving a 20-stab wound assault, a severed spinal cord, lifelong paralysis. Her life changed in an instant. She entered foster care, adoption discussions. The mother, Tamara Bergeron, publicly expressed her grief and anger. Unless you are a parent who has lost a child, you have no idea what I'm feeling. Bo and Monique Meistas, now incarcerated, their lives forever altered. Bo on death row, Monique serving decades. Their background's trauma, family dysfunction don't excuse, but help explain how they arrived at this moment. If we ask, who is the wreckage? The answer is, nearly everyone. The little girls, the family, the siblings turned offenders, the justice system, the community. This case is a tragic convergence of multiple failings and horrible human choices. In other words, this is not just a story of crime. It's a story of systems failing, of childhoods lost, of vengeance misdirected, of lives irrevocably marked. The wreckage extends far past the incident. If you take one thing from this episode, let it be this. The most vulnerable among us children often bear the brunt of adult failures, of supervision, of substance, of violence. If we ignore that vulnerability, focus purely on retribution instead of prevention, we risk more stories like this. Thank you for listening to Human Wreckage.